Hi, my name is Antonia Johnson, and the topic that I'm actually going to be talking about is community violence and how that affects our youth in the community and them attending school, and various techniques or activities that they can actually use in school to help with the experience of trauma, the trauma that they've experienced, of the violence that they have witnessed or have been a victim of. So that's a little bit of the technique that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be using a balancing ball or an exercise ball with deep breathing exercises. I'm going to actually put up the uh, instructions on a little bit about the technique and how it's actually described for you guys to actually see as we are talking here. So you really want to actually purchase a balancing or exercise ball similar to what I have here. Um, they have many different ones you can purchase from Amazon, Walmart, Target, etc. Exercise stores. You can even get it from Marshalls or TJ Maxx. So you want to get a balancing ball, and you want to go ahead. It comes actually with a pump. So the pump, you want to go ahead and I mean, mine is already blown up, but this is actually where you would actually insert um, the pump here, and actually it would go ahead and actually help you to pump up the ball. Depending on the child size, if you're working with first grade versus eighth graders, that will depend on how much air you want to put in the ball and how high you want the ball to be. Because what's important is that you want the students to be able to have their feet touch the ground. So you don't want the ball to be too high where their feet can actually lay flat on the ground. So once you've gotten the ball pumped up and has a nice amount of air on it, you can have students actually sit on the ball, which is what I'm doing now. And their feet have to actually touch the ground flat. So the feet have to be flat on the ground. And what you want them to do is to actually practice some deep breathing techniques. And I'm going to actually do that now with you guys. So we want to have them place one hand on their chest and the other hand on their belly. So I'm going to just move my camera a little bit so you can see. So one hand here and one hand here. And you want to encourage them to take slow, deep breaths and to slowly breathe out. So we're going to do 3 sets. So breathe in, breathe out slowly. And we have them to do 3 sets. You can actually have students do another set of three again, and then another set of three. And as they practice, they will get better with doing this technique. The reason why we ask them to have their hands over their stomach is so that they can actually feel the extension of their belly actually letting everything go. So they're deep breathing it up, and then they're slowly letting it out. So we don't want like a that's too fast. It has to be slowly out. And them feeling their tummy, they'll actually feel it and expanding, and they'll feel the sensation of them breathing it in, which is very important. So once they're done doing that, once they're doing that, they can actually, once they've gotten a hang of that, they can actually learn to do both together. Deep breathe in, slowly out. And they're actually doing a variation of bouncing and deep breathing with their eyes closed. And this is actually making them feel really, really relaxed because deep breathing, as we know, it's actually a very great technique to use in just releasing a lot of tension and stress. And then the vibration and the sensation of actually jumping on the ball, like as I'm doing now, is actually also self-soothing. So it's important to actually have them do both together. Now, throughout the day, if they're sitting in class, they can actually just go ahead and bounce. They don't have to necessarily always do the deep breathing exercises along with the bouncing on the ball. So that's some information about the technique of using it. So the motion of the bouncing of the ball, it's going to work in coordination with the breathing, while creating a rhythm. So they'll be creating a rhythm as they're deep breathing in and then deep breathing out. Okay. So a little bit about who can benefit. So I would say all students can benefit. For purposes of the class, we want to focus more on children who are suffering from PTSD or who have experienced severe trauma. So children who come from various backgrounds, have various situations occurring at home, in the community that they live. When they come to school, you want to definitely kind of create an environment which is not adding to what's actually going on at home. And in order to have that child learn, we have to actually create a calming, relaxing environment for them, which sometimes might not be the place sometimes at school. There's a lot going on at school, but if they can actually be in control of their own little environment, their own little surrounding by having, their exercise ball and they're bouncing it, it's actually a great feeling for them. So children who have a learning disorder or behavior problems or who are aggressive, it's also actually helpful for them in school. So if they're having a very hard time with paying attention to what's being taught in the classroom, or maybe they get bored easily, so they're interfering with other children, this is a great technique for them to use, again, because it helps them to be in control. And they're actually in control of monitoring. And every kid wants to actually have one of these. So you won't find kids actually messing up the opportunity of maybe taking the balls and throwing them and playing them and, being not doing what's being done with it, because they're actually happy to have one of these versus sitting in a chair. So this can be used for students in elementary, middle, or high school. So the age limit doesn't matter. And it should be used in a classroom setting. It can also be used in a counselor's office. So students go to see a counselor or a principal. Having this as an option is also great because, again, it's helping to de-escalate, and release a lot of tension because they're actually feeling soothing, almost like a baby. When a parent has a baby and she's in a rocking chair, she's rocking the chair back and forth. The bouncing ball is actually giving similar sensation. Then also can be used in therapy offices for therapists working with children. Again, expecting children to sit still is not always necessarily the best thing because sometimes it can be really hard for some children. So having them actually sit in a bouncing ball, like as I'm doing right now, is actually relaxing, self-soothing, and it's very therapeutic for them. So the purposes of the technique, the bouncing balls are used to help children who are experiencing anxiety. So I'm just move this down here a little bit. So for children who are experiencing anxiety and are stressed from the many life experiences that they're going through in their life. So again, children could be at home seeing parents arguing, fighting. They could be witness of domestic violence. They could be a lot of shooting in their community. They probably could live in a bad neighborhood where there's high crime rate. So they're going to sleep with hearing gunshots. So they're actually very sensitive to sound and to loud voices. So when they go to school, sometimes there's a lot going on and they react to what's actually going on in the classroom because of the experiences they have with trauma. So being able to maybe sit and bounce and relax and take deep breaths is actually helping them to remain focused because they have to be focused to sit on the ball. They can't just slouch on the ball because you can't bounce and slouch. It's really hard. Like I'm slouching now and it's really hard to do that. You really have to create a posture. So creating that posture over time is creating that confidence within them. That's the physical part. Creating that posture, having to sit up straight, having to have their head tall, their head straight. These are things that automatically comes with bouncing a ball versus where sitting in the chair, it's a little bit more relaxed. So you can kind of get away with slouching and doing all these other stuff. It's kind of hard to maintain when you're sitting on the ball. So I feel like it's really helping them to gain that confidence and the bouncing back and forth helps with just relieving anxiety if they're stressed out before actually beginning a test. This is something that they can actually do. They can actually do this while doing a test. I work in schools and I do like a lot of substitute teaching, and I find that a lot of kids tend to bang their desk with their pencils. They tend to have a very hard time sitting in their chairs. It's really hard to have them put their butts on the chairs. And they're just coming from various different backgrounds of things that are actually going on in the home, and they don't know how to handle coming to class sometime, sitting in a chair, paying attention, and listening to the teacher. So I find this is really helpful for them because this kind of gets rid of, the banging on the chair because you're banging on the table, you're sitting here and you're bouncing. You're having that relaxation sensation for you. So this is encouraged first thing in the morning and before exams to help improve focus and decrease anxiety associated with testing and learning. Some kids get really, really, really anxious and worried when it's time to take math exams or just to learn math or to learn a specific topic, and they tune out. They go somewhere else. Or they may have had a really bad night last night. They may have heard the next door neighbor had some police called over and there was yelling and shouting, and they're probably feeling really, timid, and they're really afraid and they can't really focus. So this is helping them to stay focused. This is helping them to pay attention. And it encourages, like I said, self-confidence and feelings of being being in control. You're in control of your own environment. And a lot of these kids don't have their own control. So when they actually are in control of something, it feels good. It makes them motivated. And this technique will also encourage healthy minds and promote an environment for better learning. So if you can have children self-soothing themselves and finding ways to de-stress and relax, then they're actually able to pay attention more. They're actually able to relax because asking kids to do things that are really not something that they can do, because not every kid can sit in a chair, sit still, and not every kid can just pay attention and focus. It's kind of unfair to expect that and to expect the same things out of every child in the classroom. So being able to give them an option of helping them to de-stress. I mean, they're coming to school in the morning. We don't know where they're coming from. They're rushing, and just expecting them to just get in that classroom, take their books out and get that work done. It's really not fair. They really need to have a technique where they're actually relaxing. They're taking deep breaths. They're actually able to close their eyes. Some other techniques which will be great is maybe having them vision a safe place or a place that makes them happy or feel relaxed that can actually go in coordination with the bouncing of the ball, because these are just ways of having kids feel relaxed so that they can open and clear their minds to actually taking new information. So I hope this is a technique that someone will use. I am definitely going to use this technique when working with children in an office setting, have them sit on this versus expecting them to just sit in a chair. And then every time they're squirming around in the chair, I'm wondering, like, why aren't you keeping still? Because that's not fair, like I said before. Having them sit here is just helping them to just relax. And as I'm actually sitting here doing this activity, I'm actually bouncing, and I hope it's not annoying to you guys, but it's really, really helpful for me because it's actually nerve-wracking sometimes to do, presentations and everything. And as I'm sitting here and I'm bouncing, it actually really relaxes me. It makes me to be able to focus more on what I'm presenting than the fact of me being afraid or nervous that I'm actually going to mess up. So I hope you guys enjoyed my presentation, and I hope you were able to actually take some information from it, and I look forward to watching everyone else's technique and activity so that I can be able to use it in my future